I think it's May 22nd, 2025. Rob Brown, Brendan Martin, a lot to talk about. Hey, man, Sidelines Cups. Bim Bam, you get down to Oxford on Jackson Avenue. Go get that Bim Bam big breakfast.
Bam, bam.
The Beacon closed after 60 plus years. So those folks are going over there with Erica and the great folks at the Beacon, from the Beacon at Bim Bam. Hey, got a lot to talk about today. Take a picture with your phone of the QR code. Subscribe. We're on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Brendan works tirelessly. Nobody's going to outwork him. Not even a dozen Mennonite farmers on Adderall.
Nope.
Brendan putting out content constantly every day on the SEC Sideline Sports Network channel. We've got Coach Matt Dean, Oakley McFerrin, the intern, John Hartwell, AD at ULM, Gary Harris, Sports Director, Channel 23 in Tuscaloosa, host also along with Rodney Orr of Tider Insider. Lot to cover today. Watch us live like you're doing now. You can always watch us later. Share the link with your friends. We appreciate it more than you know. And Brendan, so much going on in Hoover, that baseball tournament, the excitement. It is college baseball is big, softball's big. So let's get our panel going right now. And Coach Matt Dean, Oakley McFerrin, the intern. Oh, I see a little Steelers Nation in the back there. There we go.
Yes,
How's
sir.
everybody doing this morning? It's
Pretty
great.
good. Yes, sir.
All right. Matt, John Hartwell join us here in just a minute. I want to get started with you. Hoover is alive. And that's, there's questions. Is the single elimination going to hurt attendance? Oh, I don't want to go if my team's out in one game. No way. I don't think it affects attendance. The rain might. I think people go for the party, for the excitement. It's just like in the last 5 years, some football programs in the SEC have been in a real recession, but they're still packing the stadiums, and there's 60,000 people tailgating outside. That's why Hoover keeps thriving. Agree or disagree?
100%. Great to be on this morning, guys. Good to see you, Oakley. It's just the best thing going. I mean, the SEC baseball tournament is a compilation of the best teams in the country, and it's never going to change. It's a great atmosphere. Quite frankly, I was watching a little Big Ten baseball last night. I hate to admit it on our show. I was watching Iowa play Rutgers. I'm sitting there watching a 4-3 Iowa win against Rutgers to get to the semifinal round as excitement. I think a lot of these things are already settled, though. The reality is we probably could go through right now in the SEC, and we could probably do a pretty good thing of who's going to host the regional, right? We know that. There's a lot of pride on the line. There's also some teams that have gathered momentum the last half of the season, trying to extend that momentum. And the thing about baseball, I just saw it. I traveled with our baseball team. We made the NCAAs. We were up in St. Louis area last week. And who's got the most pitching and whose bats are hot right now? And really, I think baseball is unique because, when you play football, your line of scrimmage, who you're going to line up with. Same thing with hoops, your starters. Man, that starting pitching, if you get a pitching staff that gets hot, you can carry yourself through a weekend. And looking forward to the
and Oakley, you're watching Hoover as well. And baseball is good. I want it to be good all over the country. Obviously, I want it to be the best in the Southeastern Conference. But you watched a little bit of Hoover, hadn't you?
Yeah, so I think you kind of hit on the head especially when you're dealing with the conference as good as the SEC in baseball. It's kind of how the SEC tournament was for March Madness this year. It's kind of a trailer to what you're going to see. We've got some teams, probably 5 or 6 that'll be of the 8 in Omaha. So you've got some of the best teams in the country competing in a single elimination tournament. And then you've also got lower end teams where, like you said, a pitching staff can get hot and win it, like a Texas A&M, for example.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you really don't know what's going to happen. And I think the single elimination builds anticipation for it and will get people actually more involved.
It certainly doesn't hurt March Madness. Speaking of that, and tall guys at 7'8", 293 pounds from UMS in Mobile, Alabama, a sophomore, John Hartwell, the AD at ULM. John, I'm drinking some Shadrack's coffee. I found this stuff at Hayes Grocery Store, and when it's brewed in the borough, Jonesboro, Arkansas, everybody needs some Shadrack's coffee in the morning. Man, it's a great day. How you doing?
Doing well. Good to join you guys this morning. Yeah, and you talking about Hoover, and I watched a little bit last night. Watched a little bit of the Ole Miss Florida game, and I don't think the single elimination, is going to hurt attendance at all. They do a great job there in Hoover, and all the RVs that come out and everything else, and it's funny because I tell people this all the time, and a lot of people, don't remember this. I can remember my early years at Ole Miss. I was there 03 to 12. And actually, at that time, there were 3 schools in the SEC that made more money off baseball ticket revenue and premium seating than they did in men's basketball. And that was Ole Miss, LSU, and Mississippi State. And, baseball has always been huge in the SEC. Obviously, recent national championships by Ole Miss and Mississippi State have helped solidify that. Obviously, there have been others in the SEC, but, baseball, college baseball, especially in the Southeast, even in our league, in the Sun Belt Conference, number 4, we bounced around this year between the 4th and 5th. Best league in the country in terms of RPI. Our tournament's going on right now in Montgomery, at the home of the Biscuits, and unfortunately, our Warhawks are not there, and I'm in the middle of a baseball coaching search right now too.
What, man? John Hartwell, you better be winning. Listen, I didn't know. I did not know Motel 6 had renovated like these rooms.
Hey, if winning weren't so damn important, we wouldn't spend nearly so much money on these nice video scores.
Well said, Matt. Jump in on that one. I like that. Did Matt? I think Matt froze. The powers above got him, but he'll come back. Oakley, you hear what John just said. The 3 schools that were making more money on baseball, Ole Miss, LSU, and Mississippi State. Throw in Arkansas, and look what they're doing at Auburn now, and Alabama, and Tennessee. And you live in Nashville. You just finished your first year at Auburn. It's just Oakley, the intern from MBA, played high school football, and his teammate Marcel Reed is the quarterback now at Texas A&M. But Oakley, you live in Nashville. Do you ever find yourself wandering over there to see the Vandy boys play? Because that is a big market, but it's still a private school. But what's the talk about Vandy baseball?
Yeah, I mean, it was growing up, obviously Vandy baseball was when it was at its peak, probably about a decade ago. I mean, that was the biggest thing in the city, aside from the Titans probably. So, I mean, it's kind of died off a little. I've also grown up and kind of dug in more into Auburn, but growing up, it was definitely one of a kind experience going to see Coach Corbin.
Yeah, he is a master. I think he's been there kind of since the early 2000s. John, I saw Dave Schultz puts out Locked on Sunbelt, puts out a lot of great content. Schultzy, you talk about, we had Coastal Carolina win it all just not that long ago. It seems like it wasn't, but the baseball, it just seems like the guys want to stay at a school longer. Now there's, Skanes left Air Force and went to LSU, was the number 1 pick. He started in the All-Star game, but am I right or wrong about that?
You were spot on, Rob, and I'll tie this back into a subject we talk about every week, NIL. Does NIL exist in college baseball? Yes, it does, but not to the extent that it does in football and men's and women's basketball. And here's why. And I've for years said this. Obviously, we haven't gotten a whole lot of traction with this. The reason why college baseball, and I think this is part of the reason, going back to attendance, I think this is part of the reason why it's so popular, is kids who come out of high school who it's driven all about the money have the opportunity to go to the minor leagues in baseball. They can do that directly out of high school. that opportunity is not there in football. It's not there in basketball, although, the NBA Developmental League has toyed with that some, being able to go directly out of high school. But in baseball, the kids who go to play college baseball are doing it for the love of the game. Obviously, there's a financial opportunity now. And you could even argue, too, and I bet, some folks who have toiled, I shouldn't say toiled because some of them do make it to the big leagues. But those folks who have toiled in single A baseball in the minor leagues, you could argue very quickly that playing in the SEC or the ACC or even the Sun Belt, is a better experience for a lot than it is getting on a bus from, Savannah to Augusta to Hickory, North Carolina to Asheville, all across the Sally League, the South Atlantic League. But I think that is a remedy that needs to be looked at going forward. Is, hey, for those who it's all about the money, not about the education, there's an avenue to go directly from high school to professional.
Yeah, and I was listening last night. Chuck Oliver, my friend in Atlanta, his podcast, it's on every day after this show. And they were talking about Chris Winkie, Oakley. He was committed to Florida State out of St. Paul, Minnesota, the Twin Cities, and went on and played baseball, came to Florida State when he was like 25 or 26. Was drafted. He was 29 years old. He was older than like 18 starters in the NFL. Oakley, if you were a baseball rock star coming out right now in today's world, knowing what you know, okay, would you lean toward, hey, if they're offering you $500,000 and then you looked into what the major league experience is like, then you had a chance to talk to Jay Johnson at LSU, Sully down there at Florida, or our good friend from Coontail, Mississippi, Butch Thompson, and say, Coach, help me. I got to weigh the pros and cons of which. What would you lean toward in all?
I would say you kind of have to bat. I think you'd have a set pick in mind, probably the first round.
Yeah.
If you think you're going the first round, you have to go. I mean, in my opinion, you see this with NBA players. If you get a guaranteed contract in the first round, that's probably your best option for development. But if not, you need to sit back, see what's going to get you to the place you want to be the fastest. And oftentimes college can be the route with these skilled coaches who produce players year after year. Great
point. Matt, you have the opportunity to go to Rhodes College, a beautiful campus, D2, D3. It doesn't matter to me. You're wanting to be a doctor. You want to be a neurosurgeon. I mean, you're a 7th round pick. They're going to give you $50,000 and you're going to get your Motel 6 card stamped a lot on those road trips. Knowing what we know now, I agree. This is why college baseball is exploding in popularity.
Well, what's also interesting about baseball, pitching matters. You see some guys at our level that end up down the road getting drafted and playing, professionally. And, even us, we had a couple guys that were in the portal just to take a look and got calls from SEC teams because they were pitchers and had good years. Now, ultimately, they came back for us and they played this year and they're going to get their Rhodes College degree. But, for us, when you make a decision to go to Rhodes College, it's based on education. You're not really at that point where you were a high school draftee. Let's be honest, especially in the sport of baseball. But I do, going back to what John said, I was listening and I had a little internet issue earlier. I apologize, but it's changed for these baseball guys too. You're going to have, once everything's settled, more scholarship opportunities for baseball rosters. For number one, you're going to have some money for these guys that didn't exist in totality a few years ago. So it just makes the sport better. And I think
Matt, they got him again. I tell you one thing.
Wow.
Matt, okay. Yeah.
No, we see a lot of bouncing around, but in baseball, I see guys wanting to stay with their school they sign with more frequently because of the recent additions. And maybe the pool of money is a little different than you're talking about from a basketball or football standpoint.
Good point. John, now we're looking at what is happening. What is this judge in the 9th district out in California, the Bay Area. Claudia, Claudia Woken,
Vulcan.
she's vacillating. It's about the 125 to 105 players on the team. You got to have the walk-ons. You got to have the bodies out there. How many years did she play football? I'm curious.
Yeah, here's what. So we had our Sun Belt Conference spring meetings last week in Destin, and had a couple of representatives from the NCAA who've been integrally involved in this process. And their best guesstimate is that probably next Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day, that we'll get hopefully a final ruling out of this. And I do think the 105 as it relates to football will be the basis, but there will be some exceptions, some grandfathering in of some kids who have been walk-ons in the past that may have gone in the portal that didn't find a home. So I think there is going to be a transition period, which I think is fair. I was had a conversation yesterday with Ross Dellinger, the writer from Sports Illustrated, and talking about some of these things, and talking about SEC 9-game schedules, all kinds of topics. But the fear with all of us involved in the enterprise of college athletics is every day we inch closer to July 1 that a final decision has not been rendered, gives that much more percentage possibility that the whole thing gets kicked, the can gets kicked down the road. And you can't kick the can down the road from July 1 to September 1 or to November 1. It's done on an academic year. So if the can gets kicked from July 1 of 2025, it's got to get kicked to July 1 of 2026, which I think would be disastrous. So the hope is that sometime likely early to mid next week, that we could get a ruling. And at that point, everybody's got basically 30 days to scramble, not to scramble because everybody's been prepping for it, but to get our proverbial ducks in a row to be ready for July 1 and the implementation.
Oakley,
settlement.
Far be it from the NCAA to ever play kick the can with anything important and just push it down the road for decades, several decades. But you're our on-campus correspondent, the intern, a rising sophomore at Auburn. How many of these guys, student athletes at Auburn, football, basketball, how many of them are in your classes, in your study groups? Do you see going to and from class versus this online bull spit that is ridiculous? For what I paid for my son to go to Auburn, by God, if he'd have been getting online, I'd have sent him to Drawings Business College out on I-40.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of the football players. I've got a few classes with the football players, but I've never seen a basketball player in class. I think they're kind of all online.
Kind of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, but I think they kind of try to control it. Like if they're too famous, Scott and I room on campus probably wouldn't be able to sit still in class. So, I mean, I get that, and I'm sure Cam Newton had to do online of some sort when he was at Auburn, but I think for the most part, they try to get out there and try to get engaged within the community because that helps them build up their brand and really makes them personable. Well, talking about what John was talking about earlier, one of my buddies is a walk-on at Georgia Tech, and they kept 4 walk-ons. That's it with their cut, and he was one of them. But they cut like 23 walk-ons. Yeah,
that to me is horrible. Because, obviously we're all older than you, but I've got friends that walked on. One of them, Jimmy McDavid's watching the show right now out in Weatherford, Texas. Jimmy walked on at Texas when we were coming out of Christian Brothers. He went out there and got his brains beat in, but I'm going to tell you something. He got the letter from Texas. He lettered. It doesn't matter. He was part of, that. And he's also tougher than a nickel steak and plays with cutting horses and does a lot of counseling. Great guy, but I know other walk-ons, they have a similar story. John and Matt, both as athletic directors and coaches, some of these guys, you look at them and you go, you came out here for 5 years. You never missed practice. You majored in biology or accounting, and you were always here. I mean, that's the first guy you hire as a GA. That's the guy you recommend to Deloitte or E&Y. That's the guy you recommend to Beasley Coleman Law Firm in Montgomery, isn't it? Not that the other guys wouldn't be worthy.
Yeah, I mean, probably the highest profile version of the walk-on, if you will, is the 12th man program at Texas A&M. Obviously, always comes from a walk-on, but it does. The process does eliminate some of those opportunities. Now, you could argue to say, well, there's always only been 85 on scholarship. Now you can have 105 on scholarship. And I will say this, we're still going to have walk-ons at ULM. We are not cash flush as a lot of group of fives, and even some power fours aren't. We're sticking right around that 85 scholarship number. So we'll have roughly 20 walk-ons. And that's, institutional decision there. But what a lot of people that are not, again, in the business understand is when you've been able to have a roster of 120 or 125 or 130, at some institutions, especially the Power Fours, don't ever forget this. And I don't care how flush people are with cash or institutions are with cash or their athletic department is, there's always going to be 3, 4, 5. I'll just be candid. I'll give people an inside look here. They are somewhat favors, probably kids that are never going to see the field or may very rarely see the field, but the influential status of their parents or somebody in their family or somebody like that, they're a significant donor. I promise you, rosters across the country, you could go down every FBS football roster and you're going to find 3 or 4 kids who fit that bill that are somewhat favors. And that's no knock on those kids, because a lot of times they may develop into where they eventually see the field. But that happens everywhere. And the opportunity for those kids, or the tough decisions back to coaches or even administrators who sometimes have to get involved, those are really tough decisions under the new guidance.
One of my favorite walk-ons ever at Auburn was a kid named Willie Whitehead out of Tuskegee, Macon County, 19 miles from Auburn. And I always, as a kid, and I would do it, and my kids did it, still do it, still go out there. I'll go talk to a coach I know or something, and you see these walk-ons, and then you see their parents, and you're like, wow, they got strong genes. But the character, hard work doesn't build character. It reveals who you are. And I think this is, Matt, when you have walk-ons that want to, you got 1,950 some odd students at Rhodes College in Memphis, 537 of them are student athletes. Do the math. Oakley, get the calculator out, the Gazendas, that's about 26.3%. At a school like Auburn or Florida or Texas, maybe it's 1.5% are student athletes. Now, for the record, I was at Auburn when Bo Jackson was there. We saw him everybody was in class with us. And if you ever were inclined to look on someone else's paper, it was always good to be behind an offensive or defensive lineman who would block out the sun. But I never did that. But anyway, Matt, go ahead.
No, I have great respect for walk-ons. Like you said, John hit it spot on. Sometimes these are decisions made because of, certain things that go down in the placement of rosters and how they're influenced by boosters and those type of things. And at Rhodes, we're a development program anyway. So why wouldn't I want to take someone that wants to work? If they're doing everything our other kids are doing, program. And quite frankly, in my coaching career as a head coach, I had a walk-on once in every 4-year cycle. And I think it's kind of healthy. And you see all these videos out there when a walk-on gets a scholarship at the Division I level. One of the best things going out there. And that's definitely going to be missed a little bit.
Well, Memphis had a great investment firm, Morgan Keegan, and started in 1969. I worked for them for years. They sold eventually to Raymond James. But for all of y'all, I don't know if you knew this, part of their roadmap of building the firm was to hire student athletes.
Yeah.
Whether you were a starter or a walk-on, they said there were three things. Number one, you're a tough son of a bitch. You can handle a lot. Number two, you are disciplined, okay? And number three, it's instilled in your DNA goal setting and working through problems. Because a lot of people today, my son Wilson, who loves Oakley like a little brother, said it best about 6 years ago. He just looked at me, and the red man goes, "Dad, kids today are not the problem. It's the parents trying to be their kid's best friend." And he goes, "You're not my best friend." He says things about me. Then he goes, "Now I know why you said what you said." John and Matt, in your position, and then Oakley as a student, man, Oakley, you're wise beyond your years. I like, and that about Georgia Tech. Could you imagine if you're a walk-on football player, Georgia Tech, Grant Field, Bobby Dodd Stadium, majoring in engineering or architecture, and you play and you get part of that ring-knocking network of alumni, Georgia Tech, which per capita produces, I think, more millionaires than any university in America, John. I mean, why wouldn't you go through hell, even if the only time you run on the field is to hug your parents and your family at senior day? It's worth it.
Yeah, that's what's kind of different to me is I thought I was under the expectation they would honor these guys and grandfather them in kind of. If I get beat up for 3 years and then my fourth year I can't walk on senior day because they want to take away walk-ons the year before I was a senior. I mean, we spend so much time talking about the lack of loyalty in the players. So what about the universities? This is a perfect example. They're not even honoring their own players. Yeah. So I think if we're going to crucify the players, the universities should get some of that too.
John, great point. No one's brought that up.
Yeah, and another component of this is there's a national trend across the vast majority of higher ed of a decrease in enrollment. So all of a sudden, if you're taking, 25 or 30 walk-on opportunities away, a significant portion of those, and we're just talking football. So we've got it in baseball, we've got it in some other sports too. When you talk about the opportunity to compete in collegiate athletics being taken away at XYZ University, and they either have to make a decision, hey, I'm going to hang up the cleats or the tennis shoes, or I'm going to go find somewhere else to play. There are some institutions out there that are dying on the vine from an enrollment standpoint, and this is going to have an impact, on the entire institution as well. So, I think a lot of these things were not thoroughly thought through when this was all put
Oakley,
together.
I got to ask you, did the nail or the thumbtack fall off the wall? You're in Steelers country.
While I've been at college, a few things have fallen apart, but
I mean, you are a Steelers Nation fanatic, man. I love it. And Brendan, when he was in high school, Terry Bradshaw came to his school one day, and everybody was like, how did that happen? And by the way, Brendan wore number 15 at Nice High School in St. Augustine before Tim Tebow did, just for the record. Gary Harris is going to check in with us in a minute from Tuscaloosa. And for all of y'all, I mean, this is a great discussion. You sacrifice your body and everything for 3 or 4 years, and they're going to cut you from. I mean, do you know what a big deal it is, Matt? You've coached, Matt. You're back on the bench this year.
I am.
Yeah, I mean, and then and also look at your son Tyler. 4 years with Jimbo the Magnificent at A&M, and now in his 4th year with Dan Lanning at Oregon, director of player personnel and scouting. How attractive will he be if, let's say, he ever puts, could you imagine I'll tell you right now, if I was an SEC school, I'd want him in my deal, because is he the one that put the nonstop daily flight from Eugene to Dallas Fort Worth Airport? That doesn't have anything to do with recruiting, does it?
I will tell you, part of his title that's not listed is when the coaches go out recruiting, he works with Wheels Up and their agent, and it's a little chaos sometimes getting coaches from A to B. John probably knows a little bit about that, different stops he's had in his career. When coaches go out recruiting, the great thing about Oregon, there's a lot of resources. So they get to go to some places. But a great example with Tyler, we're talking about walk-ons. When Tyler transferred to Rhodes, he had an opportunity to walk on in baseball, but instead he was a student assistant.
Yeah. I'd like that Matt having
things.
Matt, we're losing you there for a second, but I guess if I was at Oregon, I think the first thing I would do, guys, I'd go out there to that place where that Bhagwan was. Remember the Bhagwan Rajneesh? I mean, that's where he was in Eugene or somewhere between Eugene and Portland. And my youngest son, Max, said that's the area where Sasquatch lives, for the record. Hey, Winter Timber Outdoors, folks. They're located in Athens, Alabama, on top of the great state of Alabama. Open every day of the week between Florence and Huntsville, okay? They are located right there, easy to get to, and they're building a store. Oakley, you know where University Drive is in Auburn? They're in the 1300 block. It's going to open up late July, early August, 13,000 square feet. End of season sale, 30% off. They've got Sitka gear, Dixie decoys, duck camp, all your guns and rifles, all your hunting needs, and golf polos, Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama. Deer stands, never too early to get ready for deer season. Was out yesterday, saw a good-looking doe, and our puppy was there, and she didn't see it, and that deer looked and was like, I'm out of here. So anyway, great time to get in there to Winter Timber Outdoors. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Look at these big bucks right there in Athens, Alabama, soon to be in an SEC town somewhere. That's their plan, all the SEC towns. Hopefully Matt can join us here. And again, and he just basically lost a lot. I guess Matt is back. Matt, you're back in the witness protection program.
Every time I talk, it seems to go out, so I'll just shut the hell up. It's hard on the show that requires voice.
You were doing great.
Hey, Rob, I just got to throw this in there. It looks like there have been some additions to that china and crystal cabinet behind Matt. I think maybe he's upgraded his collection there and maybe downgraded his internet.
I saw you on TV at Sotheby's at the auction, Matt.
Listen, I'm working on some things. Hey, I am going to try to get a new backdrop for the summer, Rob. I'm working on that too. We're going to put a little spice back there.
Well, look, man, and it could be a little like Steelers country. Oakley, I know, is going to go back and nail that. But Oakley was down there achieving damn near all A's this year as a freshman in college. Let me just say that if you've ever seen the movie Animal House, when Dean Wormer addressed everybody, I was on that list. I made the list, but not the right list. But I made it. I worked hard, and I done graduated like Jethro Bodine. Here's a question I have for everybody, and I'll go ahead and start. I'm gonna throw this one to Oakley. And Oakley, you look at this upcoming college football season. Teams like Florida, teams like Auburn, fallen angels that have been down for a while. You look at Auburn, Eric Singleton. I hate to say this, but Georgia Tech's like becoming a AAA farm team to Auburn. Eric Singleton, stud receiver. Cam Coleman. And then you've got Perry Thompson, Bryce Kane, Malcolm Simmons, all these guys. You can't double team both of them. Jackson Arnold, Deuce Knight. It doesn't matter what it is. But at some point, I think I got Auburn pegged to win 10 this year. Am I nuts? I don't think that's a far reach because they've been that close the last 2 years. It's the schemes, and the quarterback play was, God love him, not as good as it should have been.
Some lofty expectations, but yeah, really everything's in place if Jackson Arnold can produce. I mean, this is probably the most talented Auburn receiving core, definitely of my lifetime, probably of ever. And Jackson Arnold was in a situation last year where he probably had one of the worst O-lines in the SEC. He was without his top 5 receivers from week 3 on, not really put in a position to succeed. So, I mean, we'll really see what he looks like and if he can live up to his high school expectations because, you know, he's Mr. Football in the state of Texas and top 10 recruit nationally. So he's got the tools at his disposal, and we'll see how he uses them and produces.
Yeah, I think he also lost his entire offensive line. John, when you look at football now with the portal and NIL, all right, we'll push them over to the side. Let's talk about depth charts and rosters and all. Bryant Vincent, your coach, second year, y'all got off to a hot start last year. You're 5-1, and then I don't know what happened. Was it the mental part, like, uh-oh, here we go again? You don't know what's going on inside those players' minds, but how much different is it when you go to practice as the AD? You're on the sidelines, the camaraderie, the closeness, the unity of the players now compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago, in your opinion? John, you're on mute. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm. There we go. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, my dog was in the
He was excited.
So I shut it off.
He was wound up.
Yeah. Again, as I've mentioned on here before, I mean, coaching has evolved, and college coaching now is a lot like the professional ranks. You have to be part-time psychologist, psychiatrist, as well as being a coach, because you've got to be able to develop team chemistry. And a lot of that is making sure you have the pieces in place. And that's one of the things I'm excited about our season under year 2 with Bryant Vincent is the vast majority of our team. I mean, we really lost 2 guys that we really wanted to hold on to. We lost, Ahmad Hardy, our running back, back in January. He ends up going. He visited Auburn. He visited Oregon. He visited several places, and ended up ultimately going to Missouri. And then we lost a defensive back from Lake Providence, Louisiana, here about a month ago when the spring portal opened up, who's gone to Ole Miss. Those are really the 2 key components we lost, but we kept a bunch of guys who got offered a whole lot more money, who have bought into the Bryant Vincent vision. And so being able to have those guys now, 18 months, and by the time we get to the season starting 20 months, the core is there. So if you've got a core with good chemistry, and you add 1 or 2, 3 more pieces during the summer, if those opportunities come about, you've got that nucleus where they understand each other, they understand the expectations of the coaching staff, and we're really optimistic about obviously getting over that hump of 5, where we ended up, like you said, started 5-1 last year and ended up losing the last 6, and the frustrating thing about that was 4 of those 6, we were either tied or led in the second half of the game.
And Oakley, looking at it, we're going to go rapid fire, and then when Gary gets in, we're going to really increase the intensity. But you look around the SEC, and teams are like Florida, for example, last year, as DJ Lagway emerged as what everybody believed he was, a complete, absolute stud. That last 5 games, I picked Florida last year to win 8 games. Most people picked them to win 3.5 or 4. How the hell do you lose a half a game? I don't know, but those are analytics. But I picked them to do that, and I was like, well, that last 5 games, those teams that you think are going to be so great, some of them aren't going to be, and some of the ones that you don't think will be great will be. Florida State certainly fit that bill. But let's do this. Let's bring in a distinguished member of this panel, a member that we hold in the highest of esteem, Gary Harris, sports director, WVUA Channel 23, Tuscaloosa, also the co-host along with Rodney Orr of Tider Insider TV every Tuesday night, 6:30 on YouTube. The best 30-minute content-packed package of Alabama sports. And Gary, Oakley McFerrin, our intern from Auburn's on here. His dad's from Tuscaloosa, so he's grown up knowing you. But welcome aboard with John Hartwell, Matt Dean, and Oakley McFerrin, and Brendan Martin, our executive producer.
Hey, guys. Sorry I'm running a little bit behind. Got caught up in traffic, but ready to go for about 15 minutes here. So,
all right, let's get started with you. We got Hoover going on. There's a lot happening right now. We got NIL, we got portal and everything, but give us the top stories coming out of Tuscaloosa because it looks to me like year 2, Kalen DeBoer, he's more likely going to have his kind of quarterback, and that's a great place to start.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories right now. It's I was telling somebody yesterday, it's football season, it's football season, but this spring has been as hectic for me as I can remember, from everything from having more teams from West Alabama in the state baseball finals than we've ever had. Same thing with the state softball tournament. And then right now, of course, you've got NCAA softball super regionals about to crank up, the SEC baseball tournament. Nick Saban is hosted his Knicks Kids golf tournament at Old Overton in Vestavia earlier this week. Last week, we had the Regions Tradition Celebrity Pro-Am. And, you mentioned Kalen DeBoer and Alabama football, so I'll start there. Everything seems to be in a good spot right now. Of course, all of us know everything can seem great. Everything can just look perfect. And if you get out there and, you somehow go to Tallahassee August 30th and you lose the game against Florida State, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be, people ready to fire the coach after one game. So that's the way it works. But right now, it appears they're in a good spot roster-wise, coaching staff-wise, with symmetry and chemistry and all those things. So I would say going into the summer, Alabama football is in a good place. And Coach DeBoer's got a year under his belt, which I think is important because I think that it's hard to, prepare for a job in the SEC if you've never coached in the SEC, particularly at Alabama. So I think there's a lot of things that he learned. And as you alluded to, Rob, I think he's very thankful and grateful to some of those guys last year that kind of held that team together when it looked like, there were a lot of people that left. It looked like it might have been a mass exodus because I think those players were stunned when Nick Saban retired. And there were some guys that helped hold that together, get them through it. But now I think it feels like, from my perspective, that this transition is complete, and this is Kalen DeBoer's program.
Last week we went down for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We were down there for the Regions Pro-Am in Birmingham at Greystone. Nick Saban had 8 troopers and police escort, and here comes Kalen DeBoer carrying his own bag. He's just,
I asked some people over there in the football building, Rob, if it's awkward for him because he is the head football coach at Alabama, but when he's at an event with Nick Saban, and I thought the Regions Tradition Celebrity Pro-Am people were smart putting, I think, the 2 biggest sports celebrities from the state, Nick Saban and Charles Barkley, together.
Yeah.
And but I asked, and they said, no, Coach DeBoer handles it well. He understands that, right now, as long as Nick Saban has the presence that he has in this state, or until he wins a national championship, he's probably going to be second fiddle to Nick Saban, so it doesn't bother him. But that's a great point, Rob, because we got, I had somebody over there, and we got the video, and you could just see, Kalen DeBoer just kind of walking around unencumbered.
Yeah.
And here's Nick Saban and just being mobbed. But that's the way it is.
Yeah, it is. And y'all jump in here with Gary Harris from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But
hey, Rob, I got a question for you. And when you said Auburn's going to win 10 games, who's going to win the Iron Bowl? Is that going to be one of your 2 losses or one of your 10 wins? I'm just curious, Rob. I want to get that answer right on the record.
I'm not going to pick the specific games yet, but I'm just going to give you a number. Okay. But I'll tell you this: you can ask Auburn fans, going back, knowing what we knew about Brian Harsin at Auburn. Now, would you have wanted to beat Alabama in 2021 and give him more time, or
That's not my question, Rob.
I'll answer it for him. The last 2 times Bama's played at Auburn, it's been a games Auburn should have won probably, and that's when Alabama was probably up here. Auburn was way lower in terms of talent on their team. So okay. I think this is the year Auburn does beat Bama at home.
Gary, we got that on the record.
Got that on the record. Well, the thing is, and John Hartwell, you chime in here, but Gary, I look at Alabama, and Greg McElroy spoke at the Touchdown Club Monday up here, and he was hilarious. He's good. But I'll tell you, you are spot on. You talk about Alabama, and John, as an athletic director, Gary, that's a good point. Kalen DeBoer understands it, but the guy's won everywhere he's been. John, how would is that's a cool take on it, but it looked like Elvis coming in with his entourage. It was pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't care how good a coach you are. There's an acclimation period for everybody. Very, very rarely do you see, and especially, it was a risk for him. Just like following Bear Bryant was a risk. Following Nick Saban was a risk too, because it's easy, whether you're an athletic director or a coach of any sport, a lot of times when you look at opportunities, you want to go in someplace where, it's not in good shape because there's only one direction to go. If you go to a place that's at the pinnacle, it's hard as hell to maintain that. And it's not going to happen. And, I know there was a faction of the Alabama fan base who said, this was the wrong pick. Give the guy a little bit of time, give him a little bit of grace. And, he obviously is a winner, as you said. Maybe he's not from the cut. He's not a Southeastern guy, but I think he's really good. I know we get to go see him up close and personal in week 2 of the upcoming season, and look forward to the opportunity and the challenge there. But I think he's done a great job off season. I know him a little bit. I know Kane Womack a whole lot better, and I think Kane's I know Kane caught some grief last year too for what happened defensively. But again, I think they are going to be a formidable foe for everybody this coming season, not just in the SEC, but throughout college football.
Yeah, and Gary, Austin Mack, Ty Simpson, and you and Rodney talked a lot about Dylan Lonergan. He's gone to Boston College with Bill O'Brien. Talk about that quarterback room, and then get your take on the wide receivers. One of Oakley's friends, Isaiah Horton, has transferred he played against him in high school, from Miami to Alabama. Your thoughts about him, what you saw I know you have lots of access to spring practice, so tell us stretching and all.
Well, on the quarterbacks, I think that, if it goes to script, Ty Simpson will be the starter, and he will remain the starter. I mean, I obviously like to, believe and subscribe to the theory that for most football teams, the guy that starts the first game at quarterback, it's best if he's starting the 12th game at quarterback, because I think that means that he's good and he doesn't get hurt. I think that they're going to give him every opportunity. I think Ryan Grubb kind of said that. At the same time, Austin Mack has been in this system for 2 years. He was at Washington and then came down here to Alabama. And then Keelan Russell, the true freshman, I know Nick Sheridan, the quarterback's coach, believes that he's special. So if something happens, Simpson was the starter and it did not go to script, I don't think they would hesitate to make a move at quarterback. Having said that, I think Ty Simpson has been here. This will be his 4th year. He's waited his turn. He's very talented. It's easy to forget now in this microwave society that coming out of high school, he was a 5-star prospect. So I think he's a good quarterback. Wide receiver room, I think they're really pumped about the wide receivers. First of all, you've got Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard back. They're proven commodities. Horton is a guy who not only does he have tremendous skill, size, I've been impressed with just who he is as a person. And Oakley may be able to speak to that knowing him. I mean, he got in here, man, and just seems like a team guy. He said nothing disparaging about Miami, but he just said the opportunity to play at Alabama was too good to pass down. He didn't mention NIL at all. I'm sure it's a factor. Miami seems to, I think, pay more than Alabama does overall. I don't know what his particular package is, but you didn't get the feeling that's why he was here. You got the feeling he was here because he wanted to be in the SEC. He wanted to play at Alabama, and they're deep at that position. They got a lot of skilled guys. Jalen Mbakwe's coming over. Hopefully Jalen Hell will come back from his injury, and I think they're really high on the receiver room. So if you've got good quarterback play, and in this offense you've got good receiver play, I think the running backs will be solid. I don't know if it's a spectacular group, but I think it's a good group, and I think the offensive line in the second year under Coach Cap should be better as well. So offensively, as you kind of alluded to earlier, Rob, this should mirror what Kalen DeBoer wants to do offensively a little more than last year. And also, I think Ryan Grubb coming in, I agree with everything that everybody else has said. I think he's going to be a tremendous addition. I like Nick Sheridan. I think Coach DeBoer thinks Nick Sheridan is a brilliant young coach, but now he's the quarterback's coach, and you got Ryan Grubb as the offensive play caller and offensive coordinator. I think it's going to make this offense a lot better than it was last year, a lot more consistent.
Yeah, Oakley, you got a story from high school about Isaiah Horton. I know you played at NBA. He's in Rutherford and Murfreesboro.
Well, I think what speaks to a lot of him, what a lot of people might not pay attention to, is, he was a 4-star receiver coming out of high school. He played in a wing T offense, so he probably got the ball about 3 or 4 times a game.
Wow.
Didn't say a word about it. And, receivers are divas at any level. So, to not complain about that is really, really, I think, speaks to him a lot more than people may look into. But I think Alabama this year has the opportunity, even if they have some issues at quarterback early on, which, Ty Simpson doesn't have a lot of in-game experience they may have. They have the opportunity to lean on their defense this year. And we kind of saw that the second half of last year. So I think that's really going to be the biggest factor in Alabama staying afloat early on until their offense kind of gets their legs under them.
Yeah. What he just said, Gary, that's mirrors what you'd heard, and that's someone that knows him. So, I think guys, it's so easy to sit around and just throw daggers at all these kids today. And Oakley will be a sophomore at Auburn, so he's our intern getting his perspective. And Gary, you have a lot of interns there. John, you've got them. Matt, you got them. When the interns that you have there, you've got them structured. They're not afraid to work. If they're working for you and Rodney, they better not be. They're not going to last overnight.
Yeah, I think the intern program, and I don't know how it is in on the academic side, but for us, as far as the television station, I lean on interns more than I ever have because of, budget cutbacks and, not having nearly as many full-time employees as we once had. So our interns, we bring them in, and it isn't just, follow somebody around anymore. Those days are gone. It's get in here, learn how to do what you need to do, and I'm counting on you to go out and get content. We send an intern up to the NCAA basketball regional and up in Newark, New Jersey.
Wow.
We send them out to because we're a 2-man sports department, myself and Tim McCann. That's it. It's just 2 of us that are full time. So interns are very important, and the responsibility level that we give them is a lot greater than it was maybe 25, 30 years ago.
That is good. And Matt, you got to have young coaches. It's the same thing coming. If you're not mentoring these people, they're never going to be the next Matt Dean or the next Nick Saban. Somebody's got to teach them.
2 people I never thought that we said in the same sentence, Rob. Matt Dean and Nick Saban.
No, but of course.
But let me just tell you something. We have a robust student employment program, and what that does, like our director of athletic media, she will coordinate some of these young students, and they will be some of our broadcasters for our webcasting at certain sports. It's just great opportunities, really. And also we've had some successful interns. Honestly, I was in that mold when I was in college, so it really benefited me. And, I can't imagine, sending someone up like Gary did. That's a great – I look at it as a great opportunity for those young people. The fact we got Oakley here, he's talking about 4-star wide receivers he played with, and they're running the wing T. Just very impressed, and I think, he's got a bright future. So, that's what it's all about, man. Yeah. It's growth.
Putting people out there to work. John, I know you're over there. Yeah. Are you doing somebody's taxes over there on the sideline? You are a CPA. And you got the visor on. Where's the fan?
No, not at all. Hey, I'm taking a little beach time before we're out of here on Saturday before the craziness of Memorial Day hits. So we're soaking up our last couple of days of 30A before heading back to Fun Row. But hey, just back to the intern program, and I only have to look as far as my 2 teenage daughters who say, "Dad, you're so out of touch." So yeah, I mean, I think one, it gives a developmental opportunity for those interns, but it also gives us as folks who haven't, we didn't, between Gary and Matt and you and myself, we didn't matriculate out of college in the last 5 or 10 years. And it gives, I think, the opportunity for good and candid, truth-telling feedback on the pulse of what's happening on our various campuses.
Yeah. Oakley's kind of like when, you send Jesse Waters out or someone like that, man on the street. I mean, we're going to start sending Oakley out with a man on the street. Bill O'Reilly used to send him out there. Now Jesse's got his own show. Gary,
I got to go.
Yeah. Hey, look, what are you talking about on your show today, and how do they follow you?
Oh, wow. We're talking NCAA softball super regional, and Jeff Spiegel from ABC 3340 is going to join us, and just a lot of different topics. Tide100.9.com. You can download the Tide 109 app on the radio side, TV side, WVUA23.com. We also have a WVUA23 app as well. Thanks, guys.
Love it. Thank you, Gary. Hey,
Gary.
great stuff today, man. We'll wrap it up. I'll let everybody go. But John Hartwell, AD, ULM, Matt Dean, Rhodes College, Oakley McFerrin. Follow him on Instagram. This has been a great discussion, man. We'll be back on tomorrow morning, but we will, have a great roundtable discussion talking about a lot of football, Hoover, whatever it is. But all three of y'all, thank you more than you know for. And John, that's the best. That's the newly renovated Motel 6 you're in, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and you need to send me Oakley's contact information, because I'm going to have to get him a handful of thumbtacks, because I hate seeing the steel curtain kind of sagging there.
See, I told you. We'll do. We'll do. All right. Y'all have a great day. Thank you for being on here. I'm going to say something about our sponsors, and then we'll wrap up out of here. But it's been a great Thursday discussion. We'll do it again next week. All right.
Thank you.
Let's say something about Landers Ford, folks. They are opened at 7 a.m., 7 p.m., Monday through Sunday. It's Monday through Saturday. Not opened on Sundays. 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Employee pricing, the Ford Power Promise. All the new vehicles are out there. The 25 Ford Expeditions are on the lot. They're beautiful. So are the Broncos. And get these. I saw a red Bronco, the Sasquatch package. Beautiful with the big tires. Man, and you drive these things, they're like driving a car, but they can take anything on-road, off-road. They're great for traveling. MJ takes his back and forth from the beach. They're wonderful. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. If you have service issues, they'll pick you up, provide round-trip transportation. LandersFordMemphis.com. They'll deliver anywhere. And also Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. They are the absolute best when it comes to finding men's and women's boots, kids' boots, Filson, everything Filson has, they've got it or they'll get it for you. Barber, STS, that's a brand. Man, luggage, pants, purses, men's and women's clothing, and Marshwear, they've got it all. Duckhead, open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m., 6 p.m. Hey, Mother Teresa said it. We can't do everything, but we can all do something. Most often we see the face of Christ among us. For everybody watching, for executive producer Brendan Martin, the best on the planet, share the show. Thanks for watching, and come to this channel as often as you can. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Good night.